The rain had just stopped when Vine unlocked the apartment door, shaking droplets from her hair as she stepped inside. Her damp sneakers squeaked softly against the hardwood floor, leaving faint prints in the entryway. She let out a sigh of relief, kicking them off and flexing her toes. Finally, she muttered to herself, brushing wet strands away from her cheek. The air inside the apartment was warm and heavy, with the familiar scent of cedarwood and the faint trace of Jungkook's cologne, clinging stubbornly to the walls like he owned the very air she breathed. Her bag slipped off her shoulder and landed on the couch with a soft thud. Vine stretched her arms above her head, twisting slightly until her spine popped. It had been a long day, and meeting Nova after all these months had been both nostalgic and oddly refreshing. The conversation replayed in her mind, his familiar laugh, his casual teasing, the way he said he hadn't changed much since their college days, except for looking a little softer, a little more radiant. She caught herself smiling, and as if on cue, Jungkook appeared in her thoughts. Her smile grew wilder, mischievous this time because she knew exactly what kind of look he would give her when she mentioned Noah. Jungkook wasn't the type to throw tantrums or pout openly. No, his jealousy was quieter, sharper. It lived in the way his jaw clenched, in the subtle twitch of his brow, in the way he'd watch her just a little too long without speaking. The faint hum of the kitchen fan pulled her toward the back of the apartment. Sure enough, she found him there, leaning against the counter in a fitted black t-shirt, scrolling lazily through his phone. The hair was slightly damp, probably from his own shower after work, and the soft light above him carved shadows into the sharp lines of his jaw. A glass of water sat nearby, condensation pooling onto the marble. Jungkook looked up at the moment she entered. His gaze lingered longer than usual, dragging her from her drained damp hair to her flushed cheeks, then to the curve of her lips. He didn't smile. He rarely did at first glance, but his silence spoke volumes, the way it always did. "Someone's in a good mood," he finally said, his voice deep, carrying across the quiet kitchen. Vine leaned against the island counter opposite him, tilting her head with a playful grin. "Maybe I am." He raised a brow but didn't push. That was Jungkook's way, never asking too many questions up front, always waiting to see what she would give him willingly. She decided to play right into it. "Guess who I ran into today?" He hummed, non-committal, his thumb pausing over the screen of his phone. "Noah," she said brightly, watching his expression like a hawk. "Remember him? We ended up grabbing coffee. It was totally unplanned." The buzz was subtle, almost imperceptible, but Vine caught it. His thumb stilled. His shoulders tensed over so slightly, and when he finally set the phone down on the counter, it was with deliberate care. "Oh," his tone was even, too even. "How's Noah?" "Good," she replied, exaggerating her cheerfulness. She perched on the stool, swinging her legs lightly. "Still the same old Noah. He teased me about how much I have changed since college, said I have gotten." She trailed off dramatically, letting her smirk do the rest, softer. The muscle in Jungkook's jaw ticked, Vine bit her lip to keep from laughing outright. This was better than she had hoped. He gave the tiniest nod, but his eyes betrayed him. They narrowed, sharp and assessing, before flicking back down to the glass of water as if it were suddenly fascinating. Vine leaned forward, resting her chin in her hand. "Wait," she said shyly. "Are you jealous?" His head lifted slowly, his gaze locking on hers. Jealous? He repeated, voice low and deliberate. Why would I be jealous of Nova? Because I saw the look, she teased, widening her grin. Don't even try to deny it. You saw me smiling when I walked in, and your whole face screamed. Who put that smile there? Jungkook's lips twitched, but it wasn't a smile, it was something darker, something that made her pulse pump. You think I get jealous that easily? I know you do. She sat up straighter, smug, her voice dancing with mischief, and it's adorable. That did it. Jungkook's hand moved, not toward her, but towards his glass. He lifted it, drained it in one slow motion, and set it back down with a decisive click. His eyes never left hers. You're playing a dangerous game, Vine, he said, almost too softly. Vine shivered, but she masked it with a smirk. What game? I'm just pointing out that my boyfriend gets jealous over a harmless little coffee. It's cute, really kind of hot too. Hot? She swirled her finger over her marble countertop, pretending not to notice how his gaze tracked the movement. It's nice knowing you care enough to get a little territorial, makes a girl feel wanted. The silence stretched. He was still leaning casually against the counter, but the energy between them shifted. It was heavier now, charged. His eyes darkened in a way that made her toes curl against the door footrest of the stool. Finally, Jungkook pushed away the counter. Moving with deliberate ease, he passed by her on his way out of the kitchen, his arms brushing her shoulder just enough to raise goosebumps along her skin. His cologne hit her nose, warm and hurry, before he disappeared down the hallway without another word. Vine blinked, frowning. That wasn't the reaction she expected. She had braced herself for a grumble, a sarcastic remark, maybe even him pulling her into one of those half-angry, half-desperate kisses he gave when his patience snapped. But this casual dismissal threw her off balance. Wait, she called, twisting on the stool. That's it? That's all you're going to say? Came his voice, distant from the hallway. For now. For now? Vine sat there, chewing her lip, the tiniest edge of unease creeping into her chest. She wasn't used to Jungkook letting her get away with poking at his temper so easily. Usually, he bit back fast, sharp and hard, but now she realized he was planning something. The thought sent a thrill through her that she couldn't quite name, half excitement, half dread. And when she picked up her phone later, seeing a new message pop up from Nova, had fun catching up today, we should do it again sometime. She caught the funniest flicker of movement reflected in the dark TV screen across the room. Jungkook was watching her, quite patient, and that smile that had played on her lips earlier, it faltered, replaced by a racing pulse and the dawning awareness that maybe, just maybe, she had underestimated him. Vine pretended to scroll through her phone, but her eyes kept darting toward the hallway where Jungkook had disappeared. The apartment suddenly felt too quiet. The hum of the fridge and the occasional drip of the rain outside pressing against her ears. She typed a quick reply to Nova. Yeah, it was fun. Take care, okay? And locked her screen with a snap, tossing the phone onto the couch like it had burned her hand. Paranoid much? She muttered, shaking her head at herself. Still the weight of Jungkook's gaze from earlier lingered in her chest, heavy and unsettling. When he finally emerged again, it was as if nothing had happened. He was barefoot now, his hair slightly mussed, like he had run a hand through it too many times. He had changed into joggers, the low-slung waistband riding dangerously on his hips. Vine swallowed, unfair. always managed to look like he owned the room without even trying. Hungry? He asked, his casual tone as he headed toward the fridge. She blinked. That was it. No snide remark, no clipped jealousy in his voice. Just hungry? I could eat, she said slowly, narrowing her eyes as she tried to read him. He pulled out ingredients like he was on autopilot: eggs, some leftover chicken, green onions. His movements were efficient, smooth. As he lit the stove and began chopping, it was their normal routine, him cooking, her perched nearby with commentary. But tonight it felt anything but normal. Wine hopped onto the counter, legs swinging. So, you are not going to ask what Nova and I talked about? Nope. His knife made steady, precise cut against the cutting board. You don't care? She pushed, tilting her head. I didn't say that. He glanced up briefly, his eyes locking with hers before dropping back to the onions. I said I'm not going to ask. Wine blinked. That's basically the same thing. Not really. His lips curved, but not in a smile. It was something cooler, more calculating. It just means I will find out another way. Her mouth opened, then closed. Heat coiled low in his stomach at the quiet thread laced beneath his calm words. You are impossible, she muttered, crossing her arms, and you're naughty. He shot back smoothly, tossing the chopped onions into the pan. Wine narrowed her eyes, but she couldn't fight the grin tugging at her lips. God, he was infuriating, and the worst part, he knew exactly how to get under her skin without raising his voice. Dinner passed in a strange, charged silence. He cooked, she hovered. Occasionally their fingers brushed when she reached for something, and each time she felt a spark run up her arm. By the time they sat down at the small dining table, Wine was half certain she was imagining the tension, but the way Jungkook's gaze lingered on her across the plate said otherwise. So, she tried again. Sparing a piece of chicken. No jealousy? None at all? He chewed slowly, swallowed, and leaned back in his chair. Why would I waste energy being jealous? His eyes locked on hers, dark and unblinking. If Noah wanted you, he had years to make a move. He didn't, I did. Wine froze, her fork halfway to her mouth. The quiet confidence in his tone sent her heart into a frenzy. He wasn't denying jealousy, he was dismantling it, turning it into something sharper, something that put her on the defense. That's, she tried to scoff, but her voice cracked, cocky. He smirked, finally, confident. She stopped at her foot, trying to cover her fluster. You are still jealous. Maybe, he allowed, tilting his head, but if I am, I won't be the one losing sleep over it. Her fork clinked against the plate. What does that even mean? She thought, biting her tongue before she asked out loud. When the dinner ended, Jungkook cleared the plates while Wine hovered behind him, restless. She wanted him to crack, to admit she had gotten under his skin, but instead he loaded the dishwasher with maddening calm, humming faintly under his breath. Finally, she couldn't take it. She grabbed his arm, forcing him to turn and face her. Okay, seriously, are you mad at me? She murmured. His eyes flickered down to where her hand gripped hers for her, then back up to her face. Should I maybe? No, I just, she released him, stepping back. I was teasing. You usually get all grumpy about stuff like this. Maybe I have decided to stop giving you what you want. Her breath caught. The words hung between them, heavy and electric. Jungkook dried his hands on a towel, his movements deliberately slow, before stepping closer. Not enough to touch, but close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from his body. His voice dropped low and intimate. You like pushing my buttons, Wine. You think it's fun to make me jealous? Her pulse raced. Maybe, she whispered. But here is the thing. He leaned in, his breath brushing her hair. Two can play that game. Her entire body went still. Before she could respond, he pulled back, tossing the towel onto the counter and walking away toward the living room like nothing happened. Wyatt stood frozen in the kitchen, heart pounding. What game? What does he even mean? When she finally followed him, she found him lounging on the couch, phone in a hand, a faint smirk tugging at his lip as he typed something quickly and set it down again. She narrowed her eyes. Who are you testing? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he stretched lazily, his shirt riding up just enough to reveal a strip of skin above his waistband. He caught her staring, smirk deepening. Just a friend, he said casually. Her stomach dropped, and just like that, she realized the bottle had flipped. Wine couldn't sleep. She rolled over in bed for what felt like 10 times, glaring at the ceiling. The sheets were warm, the rain outside had slowed to a gentle drizzle, and Jungkook lay right beside her, both shoulders relaxed, breathing steady, one arm wrapped over his stomach like he didn't have a care in the world. Meanwhile, Wine's mind spun in restless nights. Two can play that game. The words echoed through her head, taunting her. She had wanted to make him jealous, to poke at his possessiveness, until he snapped. Usually Jungkook broke fast, his composure cracking with a scowl, a sharp remark, sometimes even a sudden kiss that shut her up in the most effective way possible. But tonight he hadn't cracked. He had smirked, he had leaned close, and then he had walked away, leaving her with the unsettling feeling that she had just given him ammunition. And then that text, just a friend, he had said. She gnawed at her bottom lip, trying to replay the moment. Who was he testing? Why did it bother her so much when she knew full well she had just spent the afternoon laughing with Nova? Stop thinking, she muttered to herself, burying her face in the pillow, but it was useless. When she finally drifted into sleep, it was shallow and broken. By morning, she woke up to an empty bed and the faint smell of coffee drifting from the kitchen. Dragging herself out of the bed, Wine padded down the hall, hair messy, wearing one of Jungkook's old t-shirts that swallowed her frame. She found him leaning against the counter again, coffee mug in hand. Scrolling through his phone, his hair was still down from the shower, and his joggers clung low to his hips. Morning, he said without looking up. She rubbed her eyes. Why are you up so early? It's Saturday. Had some emails. His tone was light, unbothered, too unbothered. Wine narrowed her eyes. He is still playing it cool. She slid onto the stool by the counter, resting her chin in her hand. Who were you testing last night? Jungkook finally looked up, one brow arched. Good morning to you too. Don't dodge, she shot back. His lips twitched like he was holding back laughter. Jealous already? No, she lied quickly. Just curious. He slipped his coffee, gaze lingering on her with infuriating patience. Just a friend, you don't know her. Her stomach twitched. Her? Before she could respond, his phone burst on the counter. Wine's eyes darted to the screen. A preview flashed across it. Just a name. Sophie. Sophie? Wine's heart skipped. Heat rushed into her cheeks. Sophie? She blurted before she could stop herself. Jungkook's smirk finally broke free. He picked up the phone, typed a quick reply, and set it back down like nothing had happened. Yeah, Sophie, old friend from university. Wine's jaw dropped. Since when do you talk to Sophie? Since last night, he shrugged, sipping his coffee again. She saw something I posted, reached out, figured I would catch up. Wine's blood simmered. She tried to mask it off with a scoff, crossing her arms. Wow, convenient timing. Why? His eyes glittered as he leaned forward to the counter, closing some of the distance between them. Because you had coffee with Nova yesterday? She froze. The way he said it, calm, knowing, deliberate, sent a shiver down her spine. Jungkook chuckled softly, low in his chest. Relax, Vine. I told you two can play this game. Her mouth opened but no words came out. He was enjoying this. The day passed out like that, small deliberate pokes from Jungkook, each one calculated to drive her crazy. When they went grocery shopping, he casually mentioned Sophie again, tossing her name into conversation like it was nothing. Sophie always used to make fun of me for buying too many snacks, he said, grabbing a bag of chips. Oh, did she? Vine said through gritted teeth, clutching the card handle hard enough to whiten her knuckles. Later, when they passed a group of girls during the produce asile, one of them smiled at Jungkook instead of ignoring he usually did. He smiled back, just polite, just friendly. But Vine saw the way his eyes flickered to hers afterward, watching her reaction. By the time they got home, Vine was seething. She dropped the bags on the counter with more force than necessary. You are doing this on purpose. Doing what? He said, unpacking eggs like he hadn't just spent the last hour driving her crazy. Flirting with every girl who breathes near you. She snapped. He chuckled, glancing over his shoulder at her. Pretty sure smiling at a cashier isn't flirting. You know what I mean. He turned fully then, leaning against the counter with that maddening smirk. Funny, isn't this exactly what you wanted from me last night? Her mouth opened, then snapped shut. Because he was right, she had wanted him jealous. She had poked and teased and laughed at him, and now the tables had turned. Not fair, she muttered, pouting as she crossed her arms. Jungkook pushed off the counter, closing the distance between them in slow two steps. He stopped just inches away, tilting his head down so his eyes could reach hers. Life is not fair, sweetheart, he murmured, his voice low and warm. You wanted to play, I'm just playing back. Wine's pearls thundered in her ears. His closeness, the heat of his body, the steady control in his voice, it all made her dizzy. She tried to muster a retort, but it came out weak. You are impossible. He smirked, leaning down until his lips brushed her ear. And you love it. Jungkook smirked. And before she could shove him away or pull him closer, before she could even decide which one she wanted more, he stepped back, cool as ever, and went back to unpacking groceries, leaving her standing there, heart racing, caught in the trap she herself had set. By evening, Wine was climbing the walls. Every little thing Jungkook did was deliberate torture, standing too close when they cooked dinner, brushing past her in the hallway, casually checking his phone with that smug look whenever Sophie's name appeared. Finally, she snapped. You are enjoying this way too much, she said, cornering him in the living room. Jungkook set his phone down on the coffee table, stretching out on the couch. Maybe, her eyes narrowed. You think you're so clever? He patted the cushion beside him. Sit. She hesitated, then sat across him. Jungkook leaned closer, his voice dropping to that dangerous whisper that always unraveled her. Tell me, Wine, are you jealous? Who is jealous now? She didn't say anything. Her throat went dry, because the answer was obvious. She was, and he knew it. The apartment apartment was supposed to be comfortable. It was supposed to be the one place Wine could kick off her shoes, tie her hair into a messy bun, and curl up in sweats without worrying about anything. But after the stunt Jungkook had pulled with Sophie and the way he had leaned in last night, whispering in her ear that he had her corner home didn't feel relaxing anymore. It felt like a battlefield, and Jungkook was a smirk, infuriating general who always seemed 5 steps ahead of her. The morning began innocently enough. Sunlight streamed through the living room curtains, casting golden patterns across the floor. Wine padded out in her pajamas, yawning, and found Jungkook already on the couch with his laptop open. He was shirtless, hair still damp from his shower. A mug of coffee balanced on the table. Typical. He barely glanced up when she entered. Morning. Wine narrowed her eyes. You are up early again. Emails. He typed something quickly, his jaw flexing slightly as he concentrated. There it was again, that cool, controlled composure. No hint of the sharp jealousy she had teased out of him 2 nights ago. Instead, he looked utterly at ease, like he was the one holding the leash now. Wine plopped onto the opposite end of the couch, tugging her legs under herself. You didn't even say good morning properly. His lips twitched. Good morning, Wine. Better. She crossed her arms. So, did Sophie test you already today? Or are you just waiting for her to? Jungkook's fingers buzzed over the keyboard slowly, deliberately. He lifted his eyes to hers. The smirk that followed made her want to throw a pillow at his head. Jealous again? No, she snapped too quickly. He leaned back against the cushions, stretching his arm lazily across the back of the couch. You sound jealous. Wine grabbed the nearest pillow and threw at him, and smacked him in the chest with it. He caught it easily, laughing under his breath. Violence, that's how you admit defeat? She glared. I haven't lost. Oh, sweetheart. His voice dripped, warm and slow, curling around her like smoke. You already have. Her breath hitched, heat rushing to her cheeks. She hated when he used that tone, the one that made everything sound like a promise. Before she could fire back, Jungkook shut his laptop and stood, stretching. His joggers hung low on his hips, the line of his stomach disappearing beneath the waistband. He caught her staring and smirked wider. Shower's mine first, he announced, heading toward the bathroom. Wait, Wine scrambled off the couch. We agreed yesterday it's my turn first on the weekends. Should have gotten up earlier. He called over his shoulder, shutting the bathroom door with a smug click. Wine groaned, flopping back onto the couch. I hate you, she muttered. His muffled chuckle came through the door. No, you don't. By the time Jungkook emerged from the shower, steam curling out around him, Wine was pacing the hallway in her robe, glaring. You took forever, she accused. Had to make sure I used up all the hot water, he teased, running a towel through his hair. Her jaw dropped. You didn't? He leaned down close enough that droplets of water from his hair brushed her cheek. Maybe I did. Her pulse jumped. She wanted to slap the smug grin off his face, but her fingers itched to grab him instead. You are insufferable, she hissed, storming past him into the bathroom. Jungkook's laughter followed her, rich and warm, wrapping around her even as she slammed the door shut. The rest of the day only got worse. Every ordinary chore turned into a chance for Jungkook to push her buttons. In the kitchen, he brushed past her just a little too close, his hand grazing her hip like it was an accident. On the couch, he stretched out with his head on her lap, pretending to watch TV while his fingers traced absent patterns along her thigh until she was squirming. When she complained, he would look up at her with innocent eyes. What? Am I making you uncomfortable? Yes, she snapped. Good, he murmured, smirk tugging in his lip before turning back to the screen. Later, while they folded laundry together, Jungkook picked up one of her camisoles, holding it between his fingers. Tiny, he mused, twirling the strap. Give me that. She snatched it away, cheeks rose, his voice low and teasing. You would look better wearing it right now. Her stomach flipped. You are a pervert. And you're blushing, he countered smoothly. She hated how right he was. By evening, wine was ready to explode. She stormed into the kitchen where Jungkook was leaning against the counter, sipping water like he hadn't been tormenting her all day. Enough, she declared, planting her hands on her hips. Jungkook raised a brow, calm as ever. Enough what? This game, you win, okay? You have made your point, I'm jealous. Congratulations. He set the glass down, stepping closer. So you admit it? Her mouth opened, then closed. Fine, yes. Happy? His smirk was slow, deliberate. Very. He closed the last bit of distance, crowding her against the counter. His hand braced on either side of her, caging her in. The heat of his body pressed close, his breath warm against her temple. Next time you decide to tease me, he murmured, his voice low and dangerous. Remember this. Wine swallowed hard, her pulse racing. Remember what? His lips brushed her ear. That I don't play fair. Her knees nearly buckled, and before she could gather herself enough to show him away or kiss him senseless, he pulled back, smirked firmly in place, and strolled out of the kitchen, leaving her breathless and hopelessly, utterly undone.